All right, thank you for joining me today. I also want to say thanks to Monty and his team for being so kind and generous to show me around a little bit. Amy, thank you as well. Monty, thank you for sharing your story with me and coming up in Nebraska and then by circuitous path making your way to Kentucky and starting here at Wayne, but now putting your own fingerprint on Boyd and the CAT team. So thank you again for what you've shown me today and appreciate you wholeheartedly. To those here, I'm grateful as well for you joining us. In a campaign of this magnitude, our people need to hear not only the case against Andy Beshear, but also what I intend to do as the next governor of Kentucky. About a month ago, I laid out my public safety plan. It addresses the recruitment and retention challenges that exist within our law enforcement community and details meaningful solutions to protect our families from violent crime and deadly drugs. Less than 2 weeks ago, I unveiled the Cameron Catch-Up Plan. My education plan is designed specifically to overcome the learning loss caused by Andy Beshear's school lockdowns. The central tenets of this policy are the creation of a 16-week tutoring program, improvement of the day-to-day classroom environment, and an influx of resources to recruit and retain our hardworking teachers. As the husband of a public school teacher, I'm determined to support our educators, and the Republican Party under my leadership will always have their backs. Public safety and education affect every family. They are essential to the quality of life in our Commonwealth. Today, I'll lay out my principles for prosperity. They are 10 economic fundamentals that will inform every decision made in my administration. On day one, we'll put these principles into action to build an economy that works for every man, woman, and child in our 120 counties. Now, Andy Beshear and Joe Biden are singing out of the same hymnal when it comes to your finances. And no amount of window dressing by this governor can hide this simple truth. A vote for Andy Beshear this November is a validation of Joe Biden and Bidenomics. A vote for Andy Beshear is a vote for soaring inflation that taxes working families, for spiking gas prices and turning our backs on American energy, and for an ever-growing welfare state that keeps able-bodied workers out of the economy and dependent on government. Every time you pay more for eggs at the grocery or spend more at the pump, you feel the failure of the Democrat Party's economic agenda. There are fewer Kentuckians working today than when Andy Beshear took office. And the Beshear family legacy is one of expanding the welfare state and creating a culture of dependency that threatens not only our economy, but also the very nature of who we are as people. Andy Beshear has led as the welfare governor. I will lead as the workforce governor. The principles I'm laying out today are rooted in my parents' experiences as small business owners. When I was growing up in E-Town, they owned a coffee shop called Zach's Coffee. I saw firsthand the many joys of entrepreneurship. I also saw the long hours that came with it. Most mornings, save for Saturdays and Sundays, that little shop opened at 7 a.m. on the dot. And most summers, until I was in high school and sports got in the way, I'd be right alongside my dad, making our way across town to the Governor's Manor Shopping Center where their store was located. Working there was a formative experience because I got to see a cross-section of our community come into that store. If I can analogize it, it was my first foray into constituent services. You'd have the occasional customer who thought the coffee was too hot or the latte didn't have enough espresso in it. So my parents lived by the golden rule that I'm sure a lot of our small businesses live by, which is that the customer is always right. So my dad or mom or Alex or Thomas, two of the employees at my parents' shop, would, without hesitation, pour another cup of coffee or remake that drink. But more times than not, they got it right on the first try. And they built a loyal customer base, which we came to describe as our regulars. And the regulars trusted my parents. As my dad would reach across that counter to hand a customer a cup of coffee or a brown bag with a bagel to go inside it, they would often share with him the highs and lows of their week or weekend. I'd hear about what my classmates had going on, or whose grandparents were in town, or what family trips were coming up. I'd hear about promotions and renovations to homes, or what new cars had rolled onto the lot at the Swope dealership. I heard it all. Being near that counter provided a wealth of knowledge. I also hear customers to ask my dad to pray for them because of certain pressures they were facing at work, or because of struggles at home. My parents' coffee shop for many years was E-Town's version of Cheers. We just replaced alcohol with coffee. The store also gave me a keen awareness of the value of a dollar. I still remember when my parents decided to humor me by finally letting me make cappuccinos and lattes and some of their specialty sandwiches. And if my work was satisfactory, my dad would pull out a $20 bill from the register as payment for a day's work. This was a big deal to a 10-year-old kid. But I also saw the risk, saw my parents stretch the store's budget to help pay for employees that they desperately needed. I remember spending all night in our stick-shift Toyota Elantra as we made our way to Clearwater, Florida, to purchase a coffee roaster, because my dad believed that if we produced a better product, we could stave off any competition that might consider moving into E-Town. They did everything they could to keep that business humming along. And although they closed it in the mid-2000s, it left its mark on our town and certainly on me. And it is the basis from which these principles for prosperity are derived. The first principle is that your money belongs to you, not the government. The government was created to serve the people, not the other way around. This governor can't veto tax cuts and budget reserves and then go on to take credit for every new job in Kentucky. That's why my first budget, and every one I submit as governor, will keep Kentucky on the path to eliminating the income tax. We will help Kentuckians keep more of their own money. I'll work constructively with leaders of the General Assembly to make our tax code simple, fair, and competitive so that families and Main Street thrive. I will be the governor who eliminates the income tax. Second, we must remember that work is honorable and promotes dignity. Governor Beshear, in many ways, has undermined the culture of work in Kentucky by bloating the welfare state. His plan is to get more Kentuckians on government dependence and then to keep them there. This year, 1.6 million Kentuckians are enrolled in Medicaid, including many able-bodied adults who have simply not been encouraged by the Beshear administration to find work. To reestablish a culture of work and to tackle our low workforce participation rate as governor, I'll implement work requirements for able-bodied Medicaid recipients who are not taking care of their families or pursuing an education. The third principle is related. Our social safety net should never become a trap. Welfare programs should be temporary, and they should only be there to help those in a difficult time. By making it too easy not to work, Governor Beshear has entangled Kentucky in a culture of dependence and complacency. It's a cycle that saps the potential out of our people and our communities. It's a total rejection of the American dream. My administration will build our resources to help welfare recipients get back into the workforce and avoid a benefits cliff, the point where benefits drop off as a result of increased earnings. No one should be punished for a hard day's work here in Kentucky. The fourth principle is that merit should determine outcomes. Kentucky should be a place where everyone can succeed, not just those who were born on third base or check a DEI box. Whether it's becoming a member of law enforcement, driver for UPS, working here at Boyd, or even getting elected to office, Kentuckians show time and again that in our Commonwealth, hard work is rewarded, regardless of background. This governor and his administration don't have their priorities straight on this front. Rather than focusing on the needs of our students, Andy Beshear's Department of Education has hired DEI overseers. His Board of Nursing has threatened the licenses of those who don't comply with structural racism training. My administration will bring common sense back to government. My fifth principle is especially important. The family is the bedrock of society, and all economic policies should support them. I already shared the formative experiences I had working with my parents. And now, Mackenzie and I work every single day to pass those important lessons and values on to our son. There's no greater economic advantage than a two-parent household. That's why I'll work with Russell Coleman, the next Attorney General, who will oversee child support services, to develop fatherhood initiatives to keep both parents engaged with their children. I'll bring leaders into my administration with data-driven policies to support the needs of mothers. And on day one, I'll address Governor Beshear's failure by ensuring no child in the foster care system is ever again housed in an ill-equipped government building. The sixth principle is that a strong education system builds a strong economy. I've spoken a lot in recent weeks about how much I admire our public educators, including my wife. My Cameron Catch-Up Plan is built on the idea that we must help our children learn today so that they can succeed in the workforce tomorrow. Governor Beshear shut down our schools and has repeatedly failed our children. My administration will tackle learning loss head on by delivering historic investments into public education. At the same time, we're going to empower parents and expand opportunity and choice for our kids. Seventh, let's embrace and protect Kentucky's economic advantages. Kentucky is blessed with so much, and we must continue tapping into our economic potential. We are the heart of our nation's inland waterway system. Our military bases keep us on the cutting edge of national defense. We have a strong and diverse agriculture base, and thanks to coal, some of the cheapest energy rates in the country. Our leaders must protect these advantages. Instead of standing up for Kentucky's energy sector, Andy Beshear has fallen in line with Joe Biden's war on coal. This year, he couldn't bring himself to sign my running mate's bill to protect reliable energy in Kentucky. And he refused to join other coal states in suing the EPA over its outrageous mandates. When he wouldn't, I submitted a brief to the United States Supreme Court, and we cut the EPA down to size. We need a governor who will fight for Kentucky against the climate activists and the ESG agenda. On day one, I will use all efforts to oppose the closure of coal-fired power facilities and launch an investigation so California's rolling blackouts never come to Kentucky. That brings me to the eighth principle, making Kentucky the best place in America to start and grow a business. Right now, more than 40% of Kentucky employees work for a small business, just like the one my parents ran in E-Town. And some of our biggest names, like Humana and KFC, started out small right here in this Commonwealth. Unfortunately, our workforce development programs under this governor have been ranked last in this region. With leadership, improved workforce training, and the right partnerships, we will make Kentucky the place for the next big success story to get its chapter. Ninth, rural communities deserve support and opportunity. For Kentucky to succeed, we need to encourage growth in every one of our counties. Washington may overlook small-town America, but I'm going to stand up for them. My administration will strengthen workforce programs and improve coordination between state and local leaders, so no worker has to leave their community just to find a good job. Finally, my 10th principle. Our state government must be the tip of the spear in fighting federal overreach. I've already mentioned several times Joe Biden has come after Kentucky families. As Attorney General, while Andy Beshear stood quiet, I fought back against Biden's most radical policies and won. As governor, I will launch a review of how every cabinet across state government is interpreting federal rules, ensuring that we are always putting Kentuckians first. And to take on rising gas prices, I'll seek a permanent waiver from an EPA rule that currently forces many Kentuckians to pay more at the pump. We deserve a governor who will protect Kentucky families and businesses from an out-of-touch and out-of-control Washington. Now, these are my 10 principles for prosperity. When it comes to our economy, Kentuckians deserve economic leadership that reflects their needs, promotes a culture of work, and will address soaring inflation through lowering their taxes. I'm asking my fellow Kentuckians for the chance to be that leader. May God bless you, and God bless our Commonwealth.